presentation. I think the only one which is missing is the one from Mr. Cuciniello.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. My name is Jean-Jacques Bernardini. I'm the head of the European Affairs Department in Grand Innov Plus, the regional innovation agency of Grand Est. It's a real pleasure to welcome you here in Brussels in this beautiful building of Grand Est Europe. So on behalf of Grand Innov Plus and Bureau Grand Est, I would like to welcome you. I know that some of you are coming from, you did a long trip to arrive here. It's a real pleasure to host you to discuss about a very important subject, which is the use of open data in the Alpine space. And not only to discuss open data for open data, but how to transform open data into applications for mobility environments, energy, tourism, which are very important topics for creations of added value and employment in the Alpine space. Mr. Gaëtan Claes, which is the director of Grand Est Europe, unfortunately could not join us, but on behalf of all his team, I would like also to welcome you here in the representative office of the Region Grand Est and the network of partners. But I speak too longly, and I let the floor to Manola Tegon from Veneto region, which is our coordinator. Just for a few words. Manola.
Thank you for hosting us in this beautiful place. Thank you to our colleagues from Brussels office for helping us to organize this event. And I only few words because we have more speakers and less time. So I leave you the word.
Thank you, Manola. But we have the opportunity to discuss more in detail about your participation in the European INTERREG ALPINE SPACE project, DEAS. And so that's, in fact, that we plan 10 minutes, but I think that we shorten a little bit. So it's important because the idea is it's really to give you the opportunity to introduce your organizations, your involvement in the project DEAS, and also to have discussions with the European Commissions and with USALP to exchange about how this project could create added value in our space. And I let immediately the floor to Guillaume Riquelin. Thank you, Guillaume, for coming from Region Grand Est. You are the coordinator of the project Data Grand Est, and you will introduce the works of the Region Grand Est on the topic open data and the strategy of the region on this topic. I let you the floor, Guillaume.
Thank you for your invitation. Good morning, everybody. My name is Guillaume Riquelin. I am data project manager at the Regional Council of the Grand Est. I mainly work today actually on the Data Grand Est project. And in this presentation, I'm going to talk about the Grand Est region open data strategy. Okay. The strategy of region is based on two approaches. The first one is the internal dynamic of the organization to open its data. This dynamic is based on three elements, main elements: the data itself, the tools to make data available and access, interoperability, and so on. And the third element, maybe the more important, is the facilitation actions like acculturation, formation, information, and other support services. The other approach is territorial dynamic and external dynamic for the region with thematic observatories like the Fluo Grand Est project for mobility and intermodality, and territorial and transversal approach, like with data granted project. All these projects and action aim to fit the legislative and regulatory text. For example, we can highlight here two texts like the European Inspire Directive from 2007 and a French national text, a very important text for open data, known as the Loi pour une République numérique from 2016. And this text makes data, open data, mandatory for public organization in France. Some words about ecosystem of data in Grand Est and in France. Ecosystem data, of data at the regional and national level in France is very complex. We have many initiatives and complementary approaches about data to share, spread, and to propose new services to organization and to startups and other enterprise or citizen. In this system, as I said, we can differentiate two kinds of platform, organizational platform for city like Strasbourg or Mulhouse. It's very local platform. The thematic observatories on specific topics like risk, water, biodiversity, and so on. And to link all that together, we have territorial platform like data granted. What is important, according to me, it's that the main goal of this organization is to make data available for everywhere by everyone, wherever it is produced and stored. So data granted is a central element of data strategy for the region Grand Est. I'd like now to take 2 minutes to explain what is data Grand Est. Data Grand Est is initially a network of organization, and it is based on 4 axes and objectives. The first one is to lead by federating an integrated partnership. The second one is to share data, and by helping members to open their data and share their data. The third one is to produce data. The aim here is to enhance the platform, the data granted platform with data of local interest, and to facilitate access to national data. And the fourth and last one is to valorize data. The aim is to encourage partners to use data, to reuse data, and to make data more understandable by everyone. As I said, data granted is a network of organization. It is built on a convention between the state and Region Grand Est, based on a charter of adhesion rules and funding agreements. There is two pillars for data granted, the state and region, and data granted bring together 16 funders, about 70 members, and more than 500 involved organizations. Data Grantest has also resources to drive projects, human resources with a team and 3 dedicated persons, financial resources with 6 million euro for 7 years, and technical resources with shared service platform on datagrantest.fr. Focus on main project and actions. These projects can be organized in 4 groups. The first is promotion with website, newsletter, social media, mailing to partners, and so on. The second group is events with annual regional data meeting, technical events, and thematic days 3 times a year, territorial days 2, more local than regional events. We have thematic webinar every month, and local and national partner events too, at the local or national in France. The third group of action is working group on thematic topics like land, occupation and use, for example, and more transversal topics like standardization of data, accessibility, data visualization, how to make a dashboard, maps, and other stuff to make data more understandable. And the last group is the support service. That is a very important point too, with formation and explanation webinar to explain how to use the platform, the Data Grantest platform, how to implement Inspire services, and so on. To conclude, finally, Data Grantest is a central element in the region Grantest open data strategy, but it's also a central element in the French data ecosystem to make data circulate from producer to reuser. I think the more important is to remember that the main objective remains to make data available everywhere and by everyone, wherever it is produced and stored. This is the main sentence, I think, the main goal, and one of final goal finally is to develop new services with data. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Guillaume. This is a very nice example of how to set up a platform, not only to collect data, but then to valorize and use really data to develop added value applications. It's impressive to see that the regions have a very clear strategy that should integrate the action from a global way, but also to think to local applications. And thank you for this presentation. I would like to welcome one of our guests, Mr. Jerry Pilar from DG Connect European Commission. So welcome. You are the next one. We have one presentation before. Okay, but just welcome on behalf of all the members of the DEAS consortium and the organization, the committee of this workshop. So thank you, Guillaume. So now we will travel a little bit, and that we will leave from Grantest, and we'll arrive in a few minutes in Veneto. And so I let the floor to Manora Tegon from Region Veneto, which is the coordinator of the DEAS project, and the ideas is really to exchange about the way in the different regions we can approach this very important topic of the data. And the title of your presentation is the Veneto Region Digital Agenda towards 2025.
Yes.
And I leave the floor.
Okay. Good morning again. Now I'll show you our new digital agenda. Veneto region had a digital agenda 2020, and in the last month we implementing and we made a new agenda that is called Digital Agenda 2025. For make this agenda, we make a tour around 9 innovation lab. We organize a meeting and we organize several debates with citizens, needs, and public administration. From these 9 meetings emerge main topics, 7 main topics, and you see in the slide. The first one was digital skill. So the topic about developing citizen, employees, and policy makers' digital skills. The second one is about connectivity. So increase the connectivity level to reach remote area and meet the families and company needs. The third one is simply services. So creating accessible and user-friendly e-government service to enhance the user experience. The fourth is the topic about the data, our topic, where is about using data to foster development and territorial government, also integrating public and private database. Then we have the topic about innovation technology, about spreading new technologies in the market to improve services and create new business models. Regional assets for promoting regional wealth in terms of initiative, project, and digital stakeholders. And at the end, we have the strategic goal. So establish a new strategic goal in the medium and long term to exploit the potential of digitalization. Our vision from the debates among citizens, stakeholders, and local community, it appears that digital play and will continue to play a strategic role in defining the future of our territory. In this context, we identified 3 key strategic goals, 4 pillars, and 9 ecosystems. So, Veneto region want to achieve more attractive, more sustainable, and more cohesive region. And this goal we can is based on 4 pillars, and you see in this scheme infrastructure, digital skill, services, and data that are the main reference point that have transversely affecting each ecosystem, and the 9 ecosystems that are this specific area of intervention by marked by sectoral needs are healthcare and society, public administration, employment and training, economic development, culture, tourism, agriculture, environment and climate, and mobility and transportation. A focus on the pillars, 4 pillars that with the programmatic action. We have the first one is the digital skills. For Veneto region, digital skills are the lifeblood of digital transformation. The urgency with which we must invest in this direction depends on the low level of digital literacy in our country. So the action we want to make are about digital skills platform, regional partnership for the digital skill, and to improve point of facilitation like digital gyms and innovation lab. The second pillar is about infrastructure, equipping the territory with the cutting-edge shared safety infrastructure is essential for provide a safe and reliable service to all. And here the action are about cloud computing. The slogan is everything as a service. 1 giga plan in the region, quantum network of Veneto region for cybersecurity, Veneto ecosystem of API, and supercomputing network. The third pillar is about services. The development of innovation digital services focused on user need and satisfaction is crucial to increase the attractiveness of the regional territory. So we think about some action like user-centric, integrate and agile digital services. A project called Digital Home of the Citizen is a single app and a single app portal for business and professional. And at the end, the last pillar is about data. Veneto region aims at increasing, exploiting its information assets by standardizing the collection, organization, integration, and even the processing of data from different sources, public and private. And here the action is about IoT network and space economy, to improve Veneto data platform and data governance and the open data too. Here you can see the 9 ecosystems that are specific area of intervention with specific goal. So for a Veneto region more attractive, we have to improve culture, economic development, and tourism. For more cohesion, we have public administration, healthcare and society, employment and training. And for a Veneto region more sustainability, we have agriculture, environment and climate, mobility and transformation. The implementation phases of the digital agenda adopt a dual approach that accompanies both the system action and the actions included to the individual system. So in the short terms, we encouraging the widespread dissemination and experimentation of solutions that already work. And in the long term, we design initiating far-reaching transformation, often driven by frontier technologies. More specifically, the implementation phase can be divided in 3 temporal horizons according to specific line of action. So in the short term, we have selection services and competence for digital transformation. In the medium term, spreading and making know the region's digital assets. And at the end, in the long term, we want to monitoring technological trends and planning new experiments. So I finished my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation. It's very interesting to have a short comparison between the strategy in Veneto and in Grand Est. In fact, that's it's very interesting because in 2 different regions, we have more than 1,000 kilometers between Grand Est and Veneto. It's interesting to see that the approach is quite it's quite the same, and we have a perfect example of integrations from the policy to the services provided to the companies and the citizens. I think that's really interesting. And in fact, that's when we started to think to the project, the DEAS, we had many questions about, okay, we will find probably many sources of data in the Alpine space, but how to identify and then how to transform the information into services. I think that's 2 examples show that cooperation in the Alpine space really creates an added value, and I hope that further the end of the project we will have different or other opportunities to strengthen cooperation and collaboration between the different regions. Of course, this is only 2 examples of approach in the Alpine space. Of course, in Baden-Württemberg, of course, in Austria, in Upper Austria, in Slovenia, there are also examples of very nice integrations of open data and the transformation of the open data into added value services for the citizen and for the company. But we will see during these workshops many other examples of the use in the real life of the open data in different sectors like tourism, environment, and mobility. So that's I think that's we are very good, because in fact we are not so late, and we have the pleasure to have the possibility today to have an exchange not only between partners of the project, between the different regions, but also with the European Commission and with the USALP group. And I would like to welcome you again, Mr. Jerry Pilar from the DG Connect. So that's we will have the official voice of the European Commission, and you also, if my memory serves me good, that member of the Action Group 1. Or it's the unit, it's not AG1. It's not you. Okay, that's you are working. It's the G1 unit. It's the unit for G1. It's the unit for G1. So finally, it's good. Okay, so I let you the floor for the next 20 minutes. We'll speak about the EU data policy in 2022, high value data sets, Data Act, and Digital Europe, of course. I let you the floor.
Thank you, Jean-Jacques. I'm very happy to be here at the Grand Est. I am in Grand Est at least once a week, because I realize I live 400 meters from the border, on the Moselle River. So I'm happy to be hosted at this event, and I will take you back to European level or national level. Is this the one? Yes. Because as we can see, the cities and regions are very, very advanced, and very often they don't need much guidance from the European Commission, but on the national level, sometimes things are a bit more complex. So since more than 2 years, the European Commission is following its strategy for data, which reacts to the fact that while we have a lot of data already covered by legislation, such as free flow of data in the cloud services or general data protection regulation, there is still a lot of open questions. And there is still a lot of data that will come up on the scene, especially in the industrial context. And it will be important to get Europe ready to benefit from all this new wave of data. This is the way forward. So this is just a quick schema of the legislative situation. On the left-hand side, you will see the Open Data Directive, which is all about data held by the public sector. Now we have also a new legal measure, the Data Governance Act, which is looking also increasingly at some private sector actors. And moving farther to the right, you will see that European legislators are more and more focusing on private data holders. In the Data Act, the yellow circle, where the legislators are still working on the final form of the regulation, and also in the Digital Markets Act, which has already been adopted, where data also plays a crucial role in deciding whether you have the position of such a strong player that you need to be regulated by this Digital Markets Act. Now, just a quick look at the Data Governance Act. This is the latest addition on the legal landscape of data. And in some of its aspects, this regulation applies to the public sector. The point is to make it possible that some data that should be made open can still be made accessible and reusable in some very safe environment and very strict conditions for very strict purposes, so that the reuser, a very concrete reuser, can come to a concrete data holder and ask to get insights from some data that cannot be made open for everyone. There are also some issues how to make more data available thanks to people making their own data available. It's called data donation or data altruism. There is also some labeling system for intermediaries that connect entities that have data with those who would like to reuse the data. And there's also a data innovation board that will be helping the Commission to focus on the bottlenecks in the data economy and look for standards that will help data move across sectors. So this regulation is already adopted and published, and it will come into force, I believe, in a bit more than 1 year, in September next year. The Data Act, it's a proposal for a new regulation currently in the European Parliament and in the Council, looking a lot at B2B exchanges of data, especially the data coming from IoT devices generated by a lot of appliances that we all have at home. But some of it is also important for the public sector. When you look at the green part of this slide in the middle, there is one element of this Data Act that will make it possible for the public sector to use data held by the private sector. So where you have some emergency or you need to deal with the aftermath of an emergency situation and you think that the private sector data could help you, you can request this data, and the private sector data holder has to give you the data. And then depending on the situation, you would have to pay for the data, or in most difficult emergency situations, such data would have to be even for free. So that's part of the proposal of the Data Act. But what we have here since almost 20 years is the Open Data Directive, previously known as Public Sector Information Directive. which says that if you can go to the public sector and access some data, this automatically means that you can also reuse the data for any new purpose, commercial, non-commercial, any purpose. And the public sector bodies should not discriminate, should not grant exclusive rights unless they really need it, and they should not charge for the data typically, although that is still possible in some cases. One of the biggest innovations of the new Open Data Directive are high-value data sets. And those are the data sets where the member states told us, look, we have limited resources, so it would be good if we could tell our politicians or the people who decide about funding, where should we start, which are the data sets that we should really be working on and make available under very advantageous conditions for users. So the legislator gave us these 6 categories, and from those categories the Commission has to select the data sets that will have to be available for free in machine readable formats and accessible via application programming interfaces to the machines, and also typically downloadable as a one bulk rather than asking item by item from a databases. So this is a list that we have been preparing over the last almost 2 years, but now we are really in the final stretch, and the implementing regulation should be adopted after the summer. Currently, we finished a public consultation. We are also asking member state representatives in the Open Data Committee what they think about the current proposal. And then we will ask the Open Data Committee to give us an opinion. And at the end, the Commission can adopt the list. The list will be composed of the main act, which will give you the basic rules and definitions for the list, what are the arrangements for publication, what would be the rules for making APIs available and well documented, and how we will discuss with member states how the implementation is going on. But then, of course, the most interesting part is the annex, where the data sets are listed or described. I will go just very quickly without boring you by reading out the annex. I will go very quickly through the 6 categories and what can be expected in there. So first category are geospatial data, and then there is a typical data sets that will make up together maps, so units, names, addresses, buildings, cadastral parcels. And there are also 2 data sets from the Common Agricultural Policy, reference parcels and agricultural parcels. A lot of interesting data in them as well. Of course, in each category, we define how the data should be made available. Typically, we build on what has been achieved already in a given sector. For geospatial data, Inspire directive is a very important source of rules on data formats, for example, or on the way that the data is accompanied by metadata. Second category, Earth observation and environment. Again, a lot of data inspired by Inspire, a lot of data about the world around us, about the nature. In the environment category, there is a lot of data from various legislation concerning reporting about the environment around us, and air, water, noise, waste, etc. The third category is meteorological data category. There, this sector is very far in making data available, so we could already also build here on what has been achieved over the years, and we would like to make data sets like observation or validated observations, weather alerts, radar data, but also weather prediction model data available as open data. The next category is statistics. Again, very rich category with numerous data sets from about society and economy. Again, Eurostat, together with national statistical offices, have done a lot of work. So we are building on that. The fifth category is the companies and company ownership. Here, unfortunately, this data set is not very rich because it turned out that this sector is not yet very much advanced in making data generally accessible to public. So here we kind of remained on the lower side of our ambitions, but encourage member states to go forward and make more data available, and some of them already do it. The last category is mobility. Here again, most has been done by our colleagues DG Move and their legislation around intelligent transport systems. So our open data category will cover only the transport networks under Inspire and inland waterways, so river information services. Apart from this implementing regulation and other pieces of legislation, we are trying to promote and support open data by infrastructure. You definitely know Inspire Geo portal, showing geospatial data. And there is also the data.europa.eu, which is a recently merged portal of data coming from the European Union institutions and data from national open data portals, which are also harvested. So in theory, any European open data, you should be able to find it and access it through data.europa.eu. But there are also a lot of other interesting activities run around it, like the Data Academy or the annual Open Data Maturity Assessment, where we are looking how different member states are far, or even countries beyond the EU, how far they are in making their open data work. And all this is converging into common European data spaces, which were set out in the strategy of 2020 and in a specific communication of this year. High-value data sets, we believe, should be an important part of these common European data spaces. But apart from data, the data spaces will be made up of clear rules. They will be also dependent on infrastructure, cloud, computers, etc. And all this will also be pushed forward by a new data spaces support center, which we will be funding under Digital Europe program. The selection is coming towards an end, as far as I know, and the support center could become operational around the end of this year. It will help various stakeholders to get their data spaces running, exchange platforms, make sure that there are interoperabilities between different data spaces, and well, provide them with the possibility to speak and to exchange good advice. All the other data spaces that were mentioned will also be supported throughout the upcoming years through Digital Europe program. You will see many examples of data spaces. Some of them, I think, can be very interesting for cities and regions as well, typically mobility or Green Deal, smart communities, of course. And here is mainly for information, not for the reading currently, to show that there will be a number of calls coming for different data spaces. But the first two of them have already closed, but there will be a number of them in the coming years under the Digital Europe program. So that's all from my side. And thanks for your attention.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a very rich presentation between, in fact, that we can see that the regulations are important, and for us clearly how to use the data it's nice, but to understand the global visions in terms of regulations and so also important. It's clear that further your presentations, the outputs of the project are fully in line within this strategy. It's interesting to see that at a micro level in the Alpine space, that we are fully integrated in the global vision of the European Commission in order on the topic of collections, use and valorizations of the data. And for the last part of your presentations, I think that it could open the chakra for the partners to think of new projects dealing with the use of open data, because the topics you mentioned are for some of them very close from the topics of our projects, and others that are not in the project could also be explored through new programs. Thank you for the presentation, and I think that we have 15 minutes, well, a little bit in advance. Maybe if you have a question. Could you just introduce for all the partners? Welcome, Jürgen.
I have a question for this presentation. One thing which is very important, I think, this means usability. Because data are not yet introduced, and I do not see a plan in the financial sector. If you would like to get a credit, companies would like to invest in their assets. The banks say, because of the regulation, you cannot get your credit, data is not value. They give the credit alone on a house, on a building, on whatever, but not the data. And the banks say, no, sorry, which is does not allow. If we do not transfer the financial system in the area, the data become assets, they can make credit, they can get money, investment. I think this is missing. And sometimes I think it's just an excuse of the banks. Sometimes they are the right, because I do miss the whole financial sector here in this spreadsheet. With respect to have data really as an asset in our economy.
About open data.
Yes.
Open data for anyone and everyone.
So,
The essence just for one or company open and not CCTV for fine. So this aim is for fine.
if you make a project, if you would like to relay an open data, if you would like to make something a mobility service.
And the essence is for the company. For the data, and then the servers or project, and then the end is the project, but it's generated from the open data. So I think it's not go away to inside.
Just to ensure, understand you make a business, we get a case to read that. Somebody make a business from open data. The data, while the public body just remove the data, which is included in his business, so his business is the next phase to start, because he lost the resource. So the importance is that the public sector publish. So, for example, this high-value data set should be available in the long term and not next year. We can decide we don't use it anymore. We will just delete it, and a lot of people making business and they don't continue with their business because they lost the resource. So the importance is that the public sector realize that the data they provide, they should announce they will be, I don't know, next year we will close the data set, make some changes. So otherwise nobody will use the open data because it's too risky for the, let's say, a good business, because if you charge me something based on this data, then you will lost all the clients and also recruit a few for the company. So I understand the point that you making it.
It's the second point. If you rely on open data, you make a business. on open data. And then you need a guarantee that the data is available. And yes, having open data, and if they are today there and tomorrow not there, I cannot suggest to a young company to make a business on top of it because it's too high risk. If you have a street and the street is damp and you damage your car, the legal system in Europe says, okay, the city, the municipality, you have to pay. This is a public infrastructure, and you as public citizens have to write to enforce that this data is available in one around. If you have the open data, who would rely on money on investing on this? If you do not rely that tomorrow the data is still there and you cannot pay nobody involved and get the harm reimbursed. I mean, they're not right. The legal system is not yet ready to have data as infrastructure.
The idea is to next update with open directives, that data is heavily data set, has spatial status, so the public sector should not just move them or delete them and not offering them, but because the data have a special value for the private the society. So these data should be available at any cost, maybe, I don't know. So this would be maybe the next level of another directive that would for this data also something that this data is important. You should not forget on them because everybody is building on that, and we just remove something which is the basis of this.
There's a issue about amount.
I know we have this kind of issue. So this is let's say the problem of open data is, from my point of view, is we don't know who is the user because you publish open data, their data, but we actually don't know who is using them. So this is, let's say, a good and the bad side of the same coin. But maybe this would be the experience there that in the future should be, I don't know, some special agreement maybe, and for this kind of data, they do not for the user, for us users, or is there any issues and so on. But this is the evolution of the open data. I see. Process.
You can see that because the general rule in the open data directive is that the public sector bodies cannot be forced to continue production of some data. You can stop it. And I cannot imagine that any other provision would pass through the legislation, that member states would not allow anything different than that. But in high value data sets regulation, we want to propose that the data has to be available also for some time in the future and in the past, so that you can create some data time series. But at the same time, again, nobody can expect the guarantee that this data will exist forever. But when you look at the kinds of data that we are proposing, you can safely presume that this kind of very important data set, they will simply continue. They will be, maps will always be created. Company data will always be collected. Or data on the environment will always be collected. Statistics will always be collected, maybe different ones, slightly different key attributes, but it will still be around. So here I would not be so much worried. It's rather the way of making the data open that can be something that changes. That's why I would like to make it fixed with the high-level data sets list. It's really open.
But I also see the data act as part of the private sector. Also open their data they are using on the side.
So thank you. It shows us that clearly that's the question of the regulations, the evolution of regulations, that's a real impact on the activities of the member of the consortium. So thank you for, I think that's very complete overview of the position of the DG Connect about regulations and the opportunities of the opened by the European programs. So that's we move from physically to online with another participants coming from the European Commissions. We will move from DG Connect to DG Grow, and I let the floor to Mrs. Misa Labaril from DigiGrow that will speak us about the European tourism data space. Tourism is not a subject that we discover because it's one of the pillars of the activities of the DEAS project. So that's I let you the floor for the next 20 minutes. So
Hi.
welcome, Mrs.
Hi.
Labaril.
Hi, thanks. Can you hear?
It's a real pleasure to welcome you online.
Yes.
You can see that we are quite 20 in the representative office of Région Grand Est here in Brussels. So I let you the floor, and I think that's for the presentations.
Yes, I hope you all have my slides, but if not, I'll talk you quickly through them. Let me know if you can hear me. Actually, let me know if you can't hear me.
We can hear you.
Perfect. So I will.
Do you hear us?
Yes, I hear you very well. I hear you very well. I hope I can hear the questions as well, because I was listening to the previous presentation and it wasn't super clear always, but that's okay. We can work with it. Okay. I can see that some of your colleagues are sharing slides or
yes.
Stop the sharing. Let me try and share my screen. Bear with me.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Brilliant. So I will try to put it on full screen. Apologies, I have two screens, so sometimes the mouse goes wherever they want. And now I think you should be able to see a full screen.
Perfect.
So, great. So I hope I won't take up 20 minutes. I just want to give you a bit of an overview of what we want to do with the data space for tourism, because stakeholders really want to know about this. And we're always asked about this. And it's been a bit of about a year that we've been asked about this. So spoiler alert, there won't be anything groundbreaking today for you to hear, but at least I can give an update of where we stand and what the policy context is. This is what I meant to do today for you. Now, this is the policy context, first and foremost, which is like the framework in which we work. I don't know how familiar you are with EU policies in tourism, but everything you want to know is in this document. I did not put a link because this is very easy to find on Google. So just take this title, Google it, and believe me, you'll find it in the first or second results of your search. So if you know this, then you don't need to listen to the next 30 seconds. But if you don't know it, this is what is in the document. Perhaps the next minute, not 30 seconds. What I have in the document is everything the Commission wants to focus on between now and 2030. And we have this not just single-handedly decided to write this and decided that this is important. We did this all through 2021 with all the stakeholders that answered our consultation. So this is a sort of joint exercise, and everything you find in here has to do with either sustainability, digitalization, or resilience, all the three of them together, because it's very difficult to distinguish them very neatly. And now we are at the phase of going from paper to facts. So we are at the phase of the co-implementation. Just one word on the co-implementation, because kind of like this is where we will be working on the data space as well. It's not uniquely here, but this is again where we work within this umbrella. In 2023, next year, you'll see a brand new platform coming to life. It's going to be called Together for You Tourism. We are now looking for a contractor to help us out, so the call should be out. It could be interesting for you to know that this platform will work thanks to 3 informal expert working groups composed by experts. And so this summer, I think next month, a call for proposals or for interest is going to be published. We're looking for experts. And there's going to be a working group on everything digital, everything data. And there's also going to be one on sustainability and one on resilience, but 3 working groups will sort of take the stage, and one will be on digital. What I want to say here, and I don't think I have a slide, but it doesn't matter. Everything we do on digital doesn't only have to do with data and open data and the data space. There's more to digital. We want to explore, for example, how to use technologies and applications. So there's a lot more, and there's a lot to do with skills. But today we're discussing, I want to discuss the data space particularly because I was asked to, but I just want to put it out there. The working group of the experts working on digital will not just work on the data space or on data sharing. So this is what's going to happen. And this is, sorry, I'm going back just for a second to say that these experts will help us as well, but they won't be the only entity helping us in developing a data space. As you know, we don't have a data space for tourism. As you know, everyone wants one. There'll be data space, sectoral data spaces on pretty much everything, hopefully soon, but certainly in the future. So this is happening. But for now, what we have is a bit of an idea on our mind, and this is the ambition. The ambition means that we need to see how feasible this all is. And if you have any comments and inputs, please send them to us, or even better, apply to be an expert. Okay, so the data space as we see it for tourism will not generate data, and it will not regulate data sharing. It's about voluntary sharing of data. For now, this is what we think is best, because there already are data sets. Probably there already are little data spaces here and there. Certainly governments are setting up their own data spaces. This is all fine. This is all great. Commission normally really never scraps everything that exists already. We just try to pull it together. So for the moment, what we think is best to do in the future would be to set up a system for voluntary sharing of data. I'm moving on before going back to data sharing. So in that sense, open data and privately held data should go together. So the data space should be open to either sets. And we're hoping as well that it will give rise to public-private partnerships and collaborations and synergies. The data space is supposed to be interoperable with all the others data spaces. This is super important. I was talking to the colleagues in DG Move yesterday, for example. We have, that's like our #1 partner, and we want our data spaces to be working together. And so I was listening to the colleague from DG Connect earlier who was saying, well, you know, we may come up with some standards for interoperability. Yes, this is what we also need. Everyone needs the same input from the colleagues in DG Connect, because interoperability for tourism, at least, is everything. And like I said, then we have an action called Pact for Skills. I'll talk more about that later, to support what we do in the data space, because I don't know in other sectors, but particularly in tourism, what we see is there's a lot of interest, but not a lot of maturity. So even if you provide complete access to all data existing, which is a little impossible, then you may not find the right skills in the ecosystem to make the best use of the data. So we're trying to work in parallel on another action. What I wanted to say, that's not on the slide, but it's just something that we're thinking about is, I can't imagine the data space or any sector for tourism or any sectoral data space to be a centralized lake where all data is stored. I'm thinking rather, but this is kind of like my own work, sort of my own policy work, which will have to be checked against the stakeholders' needs and DG Connect's needs and all the other sectors. I'm thinking rather of a federation of data sets and data spaces, because I find it very difficult to believe that the most efficient way to ensure data flows is centralizing them. But again, this is something that we haven't taken action yet. And the reason for it, let me just go up one slide and I'll go back. The reason for this is, please look at the bold in my slide. The reason for this is we have launched a preparatory action to help us answer these questions about interoperability, about standards, about voluntary sharing of data, about governance, who should have access, who should share data, how to incentivize the private sector and the platforms to share data, and so on and so forth. Lots of questions. So in this bold line that I have taken you to, I just want to point out we have a preparatory action going. The contractors being selected by DG Connect under the Digital Europe program, and they should kick off work between September and October. I think most likely in October. Count 12 months from there to give us some results. And the results are the building blocks, so what the data space should look like, the roadmap, so what we should do first, and in general, an overview of the challenges and how to solve those challenges to ensure an effective governance over this data space. And I'm going back just one slide to say, and perhaps this is more interesting for you. I mentioned this quickly already, but I want to delve a bit deeper into this. We are considering open data and we are considering private data because our stakeholders told us any data is useful, but under pressure from us, when we ask them time and time again, well, which kind of data sets do you need the most? These are on the right-hand side of the slide. These are sort of the data sets that have always come up in our conversations, meaning the mobility information and bookings and accommodation, that's number one. Those two data sets, our destinations want them, our business want them. And normally these are privately held, but not entirely. And not uniquely, obviously. That depends on the regions, that depends on the destinations. Visitors' pressure and sort of the impact that tourism has on the destination also is a set of data that is super important, and it links up with sustainability. And then there's satisfaction and spending. So these are the information that, according to our stakeholders, should go into the data space, should be shared more, and should be incentivized. How to do that? That's a matter for next year, for our preparatory work, for exploration. But I put this slide together just to say not only that open data and priority held data are equally important, but also to say that we want to line up what we do also with official statistics, because we have a lot of really high quality data here and there. At European level, until a year ago, we didn't have very much, but now Eurostat is reviewing up to the legal basis on which it works. And I don't know if you noticed, probably you do, they have a partnership going on with the private sector so that they can get real-time information, or at least very granular information from Booking, Airbnb, TripAdvisor, and Expedia to help us understand the ecosystem and landscape better. So there's a lot of work that's going on official statistics, and that's in particular, but not exclusively, but in particular to develop sustainability indicators. So we have a lot of work going on indicators and a lot of interest going on for real-time data. So there's work going on and this interest should be merged together. They should be at least aligned. And this is something that we try to do also through our funds. And I'm getting back to the last slide that I have. With our funds, we try to support the development of indicators for sustainability. And then we align it with everything that Eurostat is doing. That's task force that's on this slide. It does exactly that. And we also try to align it with what the governments are doing. Some governments have asked for technical support through this technical support instrument to develop sustainability indicators. So that's one of our priorities, because we don't have any information at high quality information. Something else we're doing for destinations, and uniquely, we have a pilot projects funded by the Parliament so that we can help the destinations that are in our network, which is called a community of practice, develop better skills for data management. So that's the data management for destination project. That's the second on the list. Skills, I mentioned it already. This is a very horizontal initiative that we want to pursue. It's very bottom up, so it comes from the stakeholders, but we coordinate it. And it has to do also with digital skills, but not entirely. But we try to develop it together with everything that we do on data and data sharing. And as regards data sharing, I go back to the first line in my list. We are finalizing, better still, the stakeholders are finalizing a code of conduct for data sharing. Now, the Commission asked the stakeholders for this because there was an interest expressed in 2020 to know more about data sharing, have a clearer idea. So we asked the stakeholders last year whether there were volunteers willing to write this code of conduct, and there have been. And now this little group of volunteers is coming to a final draft, which can be shared if you want to see it, if you want to comment it, it can be shared. It's very high, it flies really high, it's very high level. So you're not going to find standards in this draft. What you're going to find is general principles that should be respected with sharing data. And the point is offering the private sector and the public sector some kind of overview of which principles you should take into account every time you draw up a contractual agreement to share data. So this doesn't have to do with open data necessarily. This is almost entirely having to do with B2B, because that's the most frequent case that we have of data sharing in tourism up to now. That does not mean it's the most, it may not mean that it is the most obvious or it's the most present or ubiquitous, but every time we ask our stakeholders about data sharing, the examples we get are B2B or B2G. We do have an example of G2G, which is excellent. It's a French example by ADN Tourisme, and you will find an example of that in this code of conduct. There'll be a couple of case studies, so you'll find this G2G example as well. I haven't mentioned the DG Connect initiative. Probably the colleague from DG Connect knows more than me about this, but this is great. Living in EU, you probably know it, it's this platform where destinations meet. We call them destinations, DG Connect call them cities, but you know what I mean, like cities, communities, smart communities meet to develop standards for open data sharing. And these standards are, because the work has already been done by DG Connect, it's great for us, we piggy ride on it a bit. First of all, because it's high quality work, and second, because like I said at the beginning, the Commission tends not to reinvent the wheel if it's not necessary. And in this case, it isn't, because DG Connect has been working a lot on this to develop open data sharing for smart communities. So check it out if you're interested. And this is what I wanted to tell you, really. We are thinking about a data space for tourism, but right now we are at the stage of discussing data sharing more than we are at the stage of discussing the governance of a data space, because that will come next year. Thanks so much. I'm not sure I can hear you though now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so you can upload the second time.
Oh no. Okay, thank you. Well, it's okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. I said that the previous presentation from your colleague from DG Connect was a little bit more general. We had a very good overview of the global position of the European Commissions and the next step in terms of regulations. And your presentation, which is a focus on the European tourism data space, it's interesting because you know that a part of our project is focused on tourism, and you will see that in the second part of the workshops, some illustrations and concrete outputs from the project, and especially through the presentations of the national working groups coordinators and the showcases. And you will see that on tourism, it's one of the three pillars of the project, and it fits very well within what we did during the last 3 years. And I think that we can contribute as a consortium to the works of DG Grow for the setting up of the European tourism data space. Maybe
I'm grateful. I'm very grateful if you do.
Yeah, and that's we are interested by the launch of the call for experts. That's quite sure that around this table that some participants that will apply to participate to the different experts groups.
Now we'll be working together, because the digital working group, I'll try to coordinate it, which sounds terribly patronizing, but it's not at all.
Yeah, and I think that's the interest of such a kind of project like DEAS, is to work at the trans-regional and transnational level. You know that the Alpine space, we have the chance, I'm speaking for Grand Est, to have more than 700 kilometers of borders with Germany, Luxembourg, Belgium, and Switzerland. And for the other partners, you have also borders between Austria, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, France. So that's in fact that it's a huge networks of connections between the different regions. And we know that the tourism, it's typically an activity that with no border. That you have French people that are traveling in Germany, Austrian traveling in Germany, Italian traveling in Slovenia. So it's fact that's clearly the added value for the use of data. It's important for us. Maybe we have some minutes before the following presentations. Is there any questions in the room for the presentation of Mrs. Labary?
One question.
Just introduce yourself before to ask the question.
Yes, I can speak.
Loudly. Loudly.
So I'm Ivano, I'm from CSI, which is the technical partner of the project. I was asking if you can explain a bit more about the next call or from the Digital Euro program about the tourism data spaces.
Yes, I would love to tell you as much as possible, but I myself don't know much. This is simply because it's about tourism, but it's been managed by DG Connect. So what we know now is that we want to be put in touch with the contractor that has won so that we can work together for the next 12 months. But it's an independent action. The contractor doesn't have to obey any recommendation coming from the Commission. They're completely independent, they're completely free to tell us what they think we should do in order to set up a data space successfully. So they're completely free to come, say, a year from now, November 2023, and tell us, look, unless you can find 50 million euros, this will not fly. Or they can tell us, well, we know that Spain, Italy, Germany and Greece are setting up data spaces. The best thing you can do is to make sure they're connected. And that's all that you can do at EU level. I doubt they'll say just that, because we've had a workshop in March about semantics for the data space as a key enabler of interoperability. And the stakeholders were really hoping the Commission would do more than just connecting data spaces. But that's the part where everything we do on tourism kind of stops, and we need to involve the colleagues in DG Connect to help us establish standards, technical standards for interoperability. Because I think the two challenges here are the governance and standards. On the standards, we cannot work. We have to work with DG Connect. It has to be DG Connect. And on the governance, that's where our knowledge of the tourism ecosystem comes in. But again, we are in the hand of this consortia who's going to tell us, this contractor is going to tell us what needs to be done first and best. So honestly, I don't know what they're going to tell us exactly.
Thanks, useful information anyway.
So I hope so. I hope actually, because next May, which is halfway through their contract, this is something just crossed my mind. Next May, we're going to have, I think, either a tourism day or a tourism forum. I forget which, because I'm not organizing it and the name changes. But it's going to be one of those, rendezvous that the Commission organizes to take stock of what's going on. And we will discuss the data space. I know it's not very soon. It's next May, which means also almost a year from now. But then it's when we can, hopefully we will know more about what awaits us in 2024. I also forgot to say that because we work so close with DG Connect, this Digital Euro program that puts the money, made the money available for the preparatory action, which is 1 million euros that the contractor won, now already has granted us 8 million for 2023. So something else we need to do is figure out how to use that money, because it has to be for the data space and we need to use it in an intelligent way. I don't think it's enough to set up a data space, frankly. But so this is kind of like the kind of thinking and strategizing that now it's our job to do.
Okay, so thank you. Just one thing, that CSI is located in Piemonte, in Italy, in Torino.
Yes.
Okay, that's just to give all the information, so who is speaking and the map of the consortium. So thank you very much for your presentations. I don't know if you will be with us for the next part of the presentation. So of course,
I'm working on the code of conduct for data sharing. So
okay, so that's many thanks for your participations, and I cross fingers, and I hope see you soon for next steps of cooperations in the Alpine space. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thanks so much. Good luck.
So now we will leave the European Commission, DG Connect and DG Grow, and we will enter in the Alpine space. And we have the chance today to have participations of representatives of USALP, and we have presentations are coming from two different action groups, from action group 5, which is focused on accessibility and digital connectivity, and AG2, action group 2, focused on economical development. So we will start with representative from the action group number 5, which the presentations entitled Open Data in Alpine Space and with the USALP strategy. And I will let the floor to Carlo Vigna. Carlo Vigna.
Thank you.
Which is co-leader of the action group. So I let you the floor for your presentation.
Thank you, Jean-Jacques. Good morning, everyone. Thanks to the previous speaker that give a lot of information, insight, and the framework where the topic of open data fits. I take the floor for a short introduction, then I give the floor to Lucia Brezonic from the University of Maribor to illustrate the study we realized with the support of the university within the AG5. As you mentioned, my name is Carlo Vigna. I am responsible for the technological system of the Valle d'Aosta region within the Innovation and Digital Agenda department. And so we are co-leading the Action Group 5 with the Swiss Association for Mountain Development. And of course, as you know, USALP, the European strategy for the Alpine macro-region, works a lot being a macro-region strategy, starting from the contents. And so our action group, one of the 9 action group, it operates in the pillar of mobility and connectivities. And so we deal specifically with connectivity and the access to the services of general interest, with a specific look to how to sustain small entities, public or private, and the local communities in this transition to the digitalization. The main topic and priorities we have developed in the past year, or that we are working on now and promoting, just to mention them, are smart villages as a core engine for the digital transformation of the territories, the cross-border mobility with the Action Group 4, the access to services of general interest, and what is the contribution of digital technologies into this subject. Of course, the digital infrastructure, where there are 3 main layers from our point of view. The first one is connectivity and Internet of Things. The second one is data infrastructure, and the third one are the distributed innovation facilities on the territories. And of course, we deal with all the topic about digitalization, so also about digital skill with the Action Group 3. But of course, one main priority are open data and big data. So as mentioned before, it's very relevant to build the data strategy and the widespread data culture within the European strategy for data, as DG Connect recalled it as, and I would say in strict coherence with all the common European data spaces that are ongoing and under maybe construction. So we try to add a tailored approach based on Alpine specificity and priorities, and this in strong collaboration with other action groups. So I mentioned, of course, the Action Group 2, La Pola and GETA, but the idea is to work together with all the action group, of course. The first step to unleash the potential of data, of course, is to unleash the potential of open data in the Alpine region. So thank you for inviting us today in this workshop. And the goal is to explore the topic, but also the possibility for future common activities and initiatives at the USALP level. And thanks to the DEAS project for the, I would say, the broader relevant experience that they developed and brought to the attention today. Before giving the floor to Lucia, I will remember, thanks also the Slovenian member of AG5, Daria Kukovic, that is the focal point within our action group for all the topics related to open data. And of course, thanks Lucia to present today the study that we developed thanks to the collaboration with the University of Maribor. Lucia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will just share the screen. Okay, do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as Carlos said, my name is Lucia Brezočnik and I'm coming from University of Maribor, Slovenia. So today I don't have enough time to go in detail to this open data study that we did, but I will try more to focus on the some strategies that we provided for this open data initiative. Okay, so for a start, I think we can all agree that data is just like crude. So we cannot just take it and use it. We have to first break it down, analyze it, and then we can get some value from it. And when we started our study, we first asked ourselves who are actually the stakeholders in this area. So pretty much we figure out that there are 7 main groups. Of course, I don't have time to go in detail, but in general, government, civil society, donors, researchers, etc. But those are not just the open data providers, they're also consumers. Okay, so this is very important to point out. So when we are talking about stakeholders, we shouldn't keep that in mind that they're just data providers, open data providers, but they can also be just users or doing both. And then we also look more in detail how this open data is being shared and what is being shared. So we figure out that in this region, pretty much all of the data sets that were being shared are on the topics of the environment, tourism, agriculture, transportation, etc. But we still have a lot of challenges, let's say it like that, not problems, regarding the sharing style. Of course, everyone who has like technical background likes to see that data is being shared through some APIs to get responses like JSON or XML. But still, we can see quite a lot of data being shared as PDF in PDF format that we all know it is not really machine readable, or Excel files, pictures, videos, etc. But then that we figure out who is pretty much sharing the data, what is being shared and how, we then looked more detail into the open data maturity. So we went through this open data maturity report, which is provided annually by European Commission, and it really summarizes well the open data maturity status of each country. So the main dimensions of this maturity report are open data policy, impact, portal, and quality. And of course, each dimension has its own metrics being defined so that we can know how the final grade was calculated. Here you can see just briefly comparison from 2020 to 2021. It is great that we see improvements in pretty much all of those 4 dimensions. The most mature dimension at the moment is policy, but quality is maybe the one dimension that still needs some work to be done. But now focusing on the countries in this Alpine space. This report clusters pretty much countries into 4 groups. So beginners, followers, fast trackers, and trendsetters. From those groups, France falls into the trendsetters. So you can see also on the graph below, it is really leading in this open data maturity score. But we can be very happy that we have Austria, Germany, Italy, and Slovenia being part of this fast trackers group. So we are doing very well, but There is still some room for improvement, but then we can see Switzerland and Liechtenstein maybe not doing so well. But at the same time, let's not see it as a problem. Let's see it as a motivation that there still has to be something done in this topic. So there is a need for projects like we are doing. So when we see that there is a need for some open data recommendations, so when some country or company wants to somehow implement this open data initiative, we provided some recommendations. And we couldn't just say, okay, we think, I know, country should do this and that. We used one very known IT governance framework. It's called COBIT. I will not go in detail, but we took this as a guidance for providing recommendations. And of course, we combine this with the Alpine Space open data. So first, we defined 6 general, more abstract recommendations. We named them general recommendations on the strategic level. Of course, the first one is that we have to broaden the range of public bodies which are engaged in this open data initiative. Then we also need to improve the quality, quantity, and range of this open data. At the same time, we cannot do anything if there is no promotion. So we have to engage with all stakeholders. We have to encourage them to use, to share this open data. And of course, maybe some stakeholders want to do that, but they do not how. So we have to support and encourage this adaptation of open data in the Alpine space. And at the same time, each region has its own specifics. So it is very crucial that we define framework which is being tailored to this field, in our case, Alpine space. And at the same time, at the end, if we do not monitor, if we do not evaluate the impact, the benefits, so everything pretty much that we provided, we cannot know if what we provided is well or not. So this monitoring and evaluation is very, very important. So in general, how we approach this methodology is, of course, we started from the open data. And open data really is closely connected with the stakeholders that I presented before. They provide the open data, they use open data. And for this reason, we provided some general recommendations that I presented before. But because those recommendations are too abstract, they're too high level, we also provided some more concrete, more specific open data recommendations which support those strategic recommendations presented before. But at the same time, we align them first with this COBIT framework. That means that we define recommendations that has to be implemented in the planning phase, which has to be implemented in the implementation, delivery, and in monitoring phase. And at the same time, we align them with this open data maturity report. So we can say, if you will fulfill this recommendation, your policy dimension will get improved. So in general, 6 strategic open data recommendations were being provided, and 46 open data recommendations, more concrete recommendations were being defined. 13 of those are falling in this planning phase, 21 in this implementation, 6 in delivery, and 6 in the evaluation phase. So if all of those, of course, the recommendations are also colored, so you have knowledge right away to which open data dimension they are referring to. So here is one example of the recommendations of the first 13 recommendations that we defined for the planning phase. So when you are doing the planning of some open data initiative, we said, okay, it is very good thing that you follow those things. And at the same time, if you will implement the first 8 recommendations, then you will improve the policy dimension, and so for the remaining 5 recommendations. So 9 till 11, you will improve the impact. 12, 13, you will improve the portal dimension. So, like I said before, everything is being connected together. So, for example, if we take this first more concrete recommendation, which says that you should develop a dedicated strategy which is exclusively focusing on the open data, you will also support strategic recommendation 4 and 5, which are more abstract, and they are saying that you should support and encourage this adaptation of the open data, and of course that you should define framework tailored to the Alpine space. So now you know, with such tables, we wanted to link together more concrete recommendations with more strategic recommendations, and we also provided examples. So we checked in this Alpine space all of the countries that maybe did something similar. So for the first recommendation for this strategy, we provided 2 examples from Germany and Slovenia, how they did, how they fulfilled this recommendation. So you can go and check, and maybe you do something similar, or you just see some example from neighboring country. Okay, so here is just you know, pretty much the same thing, but what you should do in the implementation phase. Those things are more technical, so I can talk about those things much more in detail than from the recommendations, which are more from the management point of view. So here we are really focusing more on the APIs, how you should provide some submission forms, etc. And again, on the right side, you can see how you will improve different dimensions. Table from before. Okay, so here we have the delivery, service, and support phase of your project. So here we provided some recommendations which are saying that you should publish more information on the quality of the metadata, you should provide more documentation, etc. Again, linked with the strategic recommendations. And lastly, of course, you should also monitor everything. So you should conduct different surveys from the user's point of view. You should also monitor the portal's performance and usage. So pretty much everything together should be evaluated constantly, so that you can adapt to changes, so that you can pretty much provide a portal which is really user-friendly and has a lot of visitors. And yeah, this is the same for the last thing. So this is very quick presentation. Of course, we have more than 100 pages long report, but I just wanted to present you the main idea behind the definition of those recommendations.
Yep. Thank you for your presentation. It's I think it's really really clear, and it illustrates very well what could be a strategy at transnational level. We have 2 minutes before the next presentations. Maybe one question in the audience. No questions, so it means that it was very clear. So many thanks again, Carlo and Lucia, and that's oh yes, Carlo or Massimo.
Yes.
Carlo.
Just a final word about that if you want, the study will be published on the USALP site, because the main goal also is to share this content that Lucia perfectly summarized it today with all of you, and because I think that this layer of recommendation, strategic, but also open data recommendation, is a very relevant aspect. Also, the maturity model is another one. But also all these kind of approach fit in the goal to raise awareness. So also within EUSALP to have some political declaration about the relevance of open data, and also to focus what are the key areas that maybe are more interesting to develop in EUSALP. So going to specific topics, of course, economic development, environment, green energy, and so on. Well, tourism, of course. I will stop myself here, but just to say, feel free to give all kind of contribution, interaction, because this is the goal. And thank you again for inviting us today. Thank you.
Thank you again, Carlo and Lucia. Massimo, you would like to add something?
Yes, can you hear me?
I hear you perfectly.
Thank you very much. So good morning, everybody. Will take much less than 10 minutes, my presentation, don't worry.
I let you the floor so that it concludes the previous presentations, and now we have the pleasure to have with us Massimo Lapolla from the action group number 2. Okay.
Yeah.
And now I let you the floor.
Thank you very much. Exactly. Action group number 2. Thank you. And good morning, everybody. And thank you very much for the opportunity to intervene during this inspiring thematic workshop. And thanks a lot, Carlo and Lucia, who already said a lot, I think almost everything about this topic and its action on the Alpine area. Anyway, my name is Massimo Lapolla, and I work for the Piedmont region delegation to the EU. And I'm also Action Group 2 co-leader together with Sylvain Guettas from Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region. First of all, I have to apologize myself not to be able to stay with you after my intervention, and honestly, nor before a lot. But as you know, as the organizers know, we are leading in this very moment our Action Group 2 plenary meeting in Lyon. So I have to co-moderate that event in which we're also talking about data. So I'm sorry about jumping in and out from an event to another. In any case, I think that also this kind of jumping and connection represent the interest that we have as Action Group 2 to cooperate with you all about this topic, since we are running the same discussion in parallel. As you know, the EUSALP macro-regional strategy has 3 fields of intervention, and Action Group 2 belongs to the first one, who is called Economic Growth and Innovation, together with AG1 and AG3. In particular, our goal is to increase the economic potential of strategic sectors. That means that we have a cross-cutting attitude by definition. And since open data are also a cross-cutting task, working on that, I think that perfectly fits. As I always say, I like to imagine our group as a living lab in which we detect, we foster and develop cross-borders, value chains, and strategic activities. And to do so, we constantly involve, or at least we try to involve the maximum number of actors in the Alpine community. I mean, public bodies, stakeholders, institutions, and economic players. We like to say that we do that with a project-oriented approach. Nowadays, we are doing this with a bunch of interconnected topics like wood economy, circular, and bioeconomy, smart industries, hydrogen, tourism, and agricultures. Of course, some of these activities are dealt with together with some other action groups. So I think that you can easily understand how crucial it is to use opportunities from open data as a driver for competitiveness in all these sectors. Because they could have a positive impacts on an economical point of view, such as on employment, new products or services, new markets, but also on a policies point of view, for example, about transparency, participation, access to information, and least but not least on a social point of view, like citizen empowerment and support to the decision makers. For all these reasons, today, even if we are involved in some ways at a macro regional strategy level with a bunch of very interesting Alpine space projects like yours, like DEAS, I think it's the time has come for a new strategic and global reflection about this topic. And as we have been the opportunity to talk with Carlo just yesterday, maybe in the near future to enlarge this action to artificial intelligence and big data, for example, and to work together with other action groups, especially the AG5, in order to give a new boost to economic potential of the Alpine area through the embedding of open data in our action. In particular, when we consider data as an horizontal, we have to consider data as an horizontal field, like data is an asset. We have to work on the legal framework, so in an horizontal way, and we have to work on skills and data jobs, and etc. But at the same time, I think that we can consider it as a vertical tool for specific sector we are dealing with, as the ones I mentioned before: tourism, mobility, circular economy, food, etc. That's why I'm sincerely happy to have crossed the activities of DEAS project and its community, your community, and I really hope, but I'm quite sure and confident that we could find concrete ways to cooperate on tourism sector, for example, but not only, in order to make the macro-regional strategy of the Alpine area stronger and more effective. I think that from my side, it's all. I thank you, everybody, especially the organizers who gave me the opportunity to tell you what we are doing, and for bringing me some inspiration about future activities that we could live and share together. Of course, I'm at your disposal for any questions you might have today in this maybe in this slot of Q&A. And of course, after this meeting, you can easily find me in the EUSALP website or in the Piedmont region website. Thank you very much, and I hope it was clear.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes, crystal clear, and I know that it's difficult to manage two events at the same time, but it's difficult to say it, but thanks to the COVID, that I think that progressed a lot in terms of use of digital for meetings, and now it's allows us to do two things at the same time. So that's thank you very much for your presentation, and
thank you.
It's impressive because we are just on time. That we have 3 minutes in advance, because we have a very dense agenda. So that's I propose that we have a coffee break, 15 minutes before to jump to the second part of the workshop, in which that we will discuss a little bit more about the famous DEAS project, because that's you know, that's I sing a lot DEAS, but what is DEAS? And that's you have so we will have some presentations, and that we will discuss about outputs from this very interesting project. And for the last sentence, that I would like also to welcome our guest from the European Commission, Christian Cucinello from GRTD, who joined us during the first part of the workshop. Many thanks for coming. That's I think it's very interesting to have the global vision of the European Commission through the participation of DG Connect, DG Go, and DGRTD. So I think that with the 3 different aspects or visions, it's very interesting for us that's to have these presentations here today. Okay, so thank you, Massimo, and hope that we will have the opportunity to meet us together maybe in the next project.
We are connected.
We are connected. So okay, thank you, and see you.
Thank you very much, and sorry for leaving, but I will report to our partners from the Action Group 2 of EUSALP what you are doing in this moment in Brussels. Okay,
no
thanks.
problem. See you at 11:35 after the break.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
It's okay. Okay. So finally, that's we have only 2 minutes late, so it's perfect. So that's I propose to enter in the second phase of these workshops with presentations coming from partners of the DEAS project. And I let immediately the floor to Roberto Sandrini from Veneto Regions, which will introduce the objective of the project, and moreover, that's the DEAS project as a whole. Roberto.
Thank you very much. You are right. We talk a lot about DEAS, but we didn't summarize what is DEAS. So now we try to give a short overview of the project, even if many of the participants sitting around this table have been involved since the beginning, so they know what we are talking about. But for those that are not familiar, I would like just summarize a little bit. So we are talking about one project that has been funded under the umbrella of INTERREG Alpine Space. This project has been, sorry, what happened? Okay. This project starting already past 2019, and it's going to be completed by August 2022, and the deadline for the technical activities, like what we are doing now, is the end of this month. What is the core of DEAS? DEAS is the third step of one Veneto region initiative that started with a couple of projects funded under the INTERREG MED. It was a completely different geographical location, but same topic. We are talking about Homer, that was the first strategic project related to the availability of data. It was at the very beginning. We are talking about 2014. Then we move to the use of data, and this was Odeon project that has been funded past 2018. And now we are talking about DEAS. What is the new step of DEAS respect to the availability and the usability? DEAS is talking about API. We heard already about API. They have been included in the data set, like in the Data Act, like one of the way to make open data available, to expose open data. And the core of our project is to work on data sets, mainly considering tourism, environment, and mobility, and expose them in form of in API manner for new services and new products. In fact, as you can see, it's not working. Next, thank you. Here it is very shortly summarize what we did in our project. The first line is the analysis that brought to the elaboration of a methodology to use open data, to expose in API manner open data. Then we talk, it is a range one, we worked on identifying relevant data sets for the provision of services concerning the three topics: environment, tourism, and mobility. And the green is related to the exploitation of data, mainly focused on the implementation of the transnational working groups made by experts and partners that will be shortly explained, and then testing with SMEs. Around 240 SMEs have been involved to test opportunities for new projects and new services. And this is what we are now, with the last step that is related to the development of an open data strategy, DEAS strategy, and thinking about the follow-up merged into one existing community, Smart Alps, under the umbrella of the action group number 5 of the US Alp that I talked before the coffee break. And this is these are the last steps for completing and finalizing DEAS project. The geographical coverage of our project explain the different approaches that we have. You see that totally we work with 8 project areas covering France, Germany, Austria, Italy, and Slovenia. And we combine metropolitan and urban area with mountain areas and different geographical characteristics of other areas. Additionally, you see that the partners decided to work on some specific topics. Some of them work on tourism, other work on environment, and all of them in one transnational pilot under the coordination of the city of Constance, worked on mobility. Mobility was the real challenge in our project because putting together different needs and try to work together for common challenges and identifying services at Alpine Space level was really an adventure for many of us. Regarding tourism, as it will explain later, we developed some products related to the connecting tourism and the georeferential point of interest data. These are some of the outcomes of the action carried out, but I would like to underline what are the main results of our job. We, as I told before, we developed one methodology that was our guide to identify the data sets, to check the quality of the data available, and to plan the new services. To do that, we developed a toolkit and we developed some training materials. Everything was included in the in a DEAS platform that is including the results of the work done with the open data, and they are exposed with the application programming interface and the APIs that I mentioned before. The toolkit is composed by a set of instruments to support service providers to assist SMEs to use and exploit open data, to plan the marketing strategies that are connected with, and the tools have been used and tested during the pilots. The last 2 results, as I told before, are made by one DEAS strategy, fully aligned with the Alpine Space open data strategy that was explained before, and of course harmonized with the European policies concerning open data, particularly the open data strategy that is the one of the pillars of our project. The last step that is still under development is the DEAS Federation. We discussed a lot this point among the partners, and we decided not to create a brand new community, but to merge into an existing one. We analyzed many existing and running communities, and finally, even because the relationship with the USAL strategy, we are negotiating, we can say, to merge into the Smart Alps community. That is one community linked to another experience of the European, macro strategy Alpine Space, that is the smart villages experience. And we are working with them to assure through the Smart Alps community the durability of our tools, the accessibility of our APIs, and their updates. Of course, this is a challenge that is still under discussion, but we are confident that with the effort by our regional authorities and the possible future projects, we will be able to assure the long-lasting impact of our project outputs. Last slide. I show you where you can find everything concerning our main outputs. It is the repository of the tools that is under the umbrella of the Veneto Region Open Data Platform. Here you can find the training, you can find the toolkit, the DEAS platform that assure the link with the APIs, and brand new and still under construction, the DEAS Federation. So thanks a lot. I try to stay into my time.
Perfect. Thank you, Roberto, for the introduction in the DEAS project. I know that many people around the table know perfectly the project, the contents, the outputs, but I think it was nice to summarize the situation.
Yeah,
to give an overview, to review the project. And now we will enter more into details, and with different presentations focused on topics of open data and tourism, mobility, and environment. And thanks for the participation of the three coordinators: Stéphanie from Grand Innov Plus, Christine Volrath from City of Consens, and last but not least, Robert from BizUp Industria. So we have the chance to have a French, German, Austrian presentations. It's nice. It's why the open projects are magical. So Stéphanie, dear colleague, I let you the floor.
Yes, good morning, everybody. So I'm glad to present our results concerning tourism transnational approach. This was our main steps. So first of all, as Roberto said, each territories need to better know, I would say, all open data platforms. And it was the first work to collect, analyze, and to select open data related on tourism topics. And after, we imagined service concepts, ideas at local level, always for the moment at local level. Service concepts come from surveys on citizen needs, and also with the local working group. It's a core group team, core group team with stakeholders, with institutional, private, and public actors. It was the first step at local level. And after, we exchange with the transnational working group about these first ideas to find a common approach which will be used for local pilot action. And after the local pilot action created new services or developed new service, new development for existing services. And we had a particular action in DEAS project. It was a pitch event organized by DEAS partner to promote new services in development for a larger stakeholder, I would say. And of course, in parallel, DEAS platform have been created to collect not only on tourism aspect, but also on mobility and environment field, all data selected. So to come back at the first ideas, the first service concept, we can see, in fact, different ideas, but in fact, we are quite, we have similar, I would say, ideas and opinion, because, and maybe COVID context reinforced this opinion, because each territory need to be more attractive, and there is a real need from citizens and tourists to discover or rediscover some places, not only famous places, but also original or interesting places. And we discovered there is a need to having a personalized experience to discover this famous or original place. So for these reasons, we choose to focus on PRI, its points of interest. It's a specific point location that someone may find useful or interesting to prepare our local pilot action. This slide presents the scheme adapted, of course, with CSI, to develop APIs coming from, first of all, the PRI. And you can see that each territory have a lot of PRIs in each territory. But CSI will speak technically about this scheme probably after. And to compare after our, I would say, our local pilot action with the PUI base, I would say, the 4 territories are focused on tourism, and the majority of partners realized an hackathon. 3 partners, 2 areas, it's Italian and Austrian area. And in France, we had a northern approach to collaborate with 2 schools to create a new service coming from one SME. It's a riverboat located in Strasbourg city. Of course, each territory for their action pilot used open data sets, and the aim was to create and help startup companies to develop their products, their services, but also for having a new concept, new creation, an added value service for the, of course, for the company and for the territory. So we did for each territory an assistance with different startups and SMEs. And always in the same approach, we, of course, this pilot action had an impact at European and local level. At European level, I would say, is to develop new markets, create or integrate communities, and at local level, of course, it helps to attract, to be more attractive at the territorial level, and to help economic sector. And of course, a lot of communication have been done. And in few words, because after we will have a showcases in 3 sectors, but this is a concrete result from this pilot actions with some success cases, and we can stand up, integrate a lot of theories. For instance, Caribou, Gedai, Traveling, and Gaideo have been created with this pilot action. So
Fine.
it's
Fine.
it's enough for me.
Okay. Okay, so we will travel a little bit, moving from Grand Est to Baden-Württemberg. So I let you the floor, Christine.
Yeah, I'm from the city of Constance, close to Switzerland, so in the middle of Europe. Our topic is open data and mobility. So why is open data important on regional, local, German, national, and transnational level? So first of all, I'd like to say you that we have an open data platform. So the city of Constance has an open data platform, which is important because because we like to contribute on regional level to local level, and then of course that's why we were interested in this DEAS project, because we like to do it on transnational level as well, because mobility is an issue of not just local but on transnational level. So there you can see the data sets. The most data sets we have in mobility and in climate, because climate change is a focus or a topic of all of us. And I like to show you what open data can do on the city or for transnational as well. For example, parking data. We collected parking data because it's important to know how many parking places do you need for delivery. Maybe I can tell you that we have, this is our first local parking pilot, and we bought with DEAS 10 sensors, open parking sensors. We like to install them in our inner circle of city, and we want to do this with LoRaWAN. LoRaWAN has benefits because low energy. And yeah, important is that cities have no knowledge or no competence on building real-time data. So we all can talk about open data and real-time data and so on and APIs, but at the end, the local ones, so the cities and the pupils need to understand what is the digitalization and open data. So we need to do a use case which is important for the people, who is interested for the people, and parking is interesting. And so our big aim after DEAS, so DEAS was first step to get in this topic, is to have smart delivery landing zones for parking management. If you can open this little on Hamburg, this one, yes, no, this link, yes. You can see, go above, yes, yes, yes. Alles akzeptieren, yes, the first one, yeah. And go above, down, under, yeah. I don't know. Go on. No, go on. Just okay. Go ahead. Just below. Here you see the picture. So you have the parking sensors, and then you can say if you like to deliver something, I book this parking place for me when I go inside the city, and in the evening the parking places are free for people who live there. So you can have less parking places, and you make sure that the goods are coming inside the city, but and there's a free place. So this is a good thing for open data and digitalization. Can you come back to the presentation? A second use case, which is important in mobility and on local, regional level, was the, it's me, okay, is here you can show the parking, how you get there. It's you can see the parking houses, and then you can get, if you get inside the city, we know to know the parking and the traffic jams before they come into the city. That's why we have how do you say, park light system, so a guiding system how to get into, and it's open, so you can have the parking data and all this stuff. This is good to know. So we have the open cycle data. Cycling is important because it's good for your health and no cars in the city. So we thought about how get we done the empowerment of citizens, because the citizens need to collecting their own bicycle data, getting in evidence on their data, and also we as a city get evidence on accidents with cars overtaken bikes. So we built this open bike sensor together with our people of Constance. And so we have the open bike sensor. It's on the bike. You see here on the, yeah. And with this, you get open data done by your people and in the open portal. Yeah. So you can do it with a swimming medal on the left side. So have this 1.50 meter, because in Germany it's 1.50 meter distance is good manners, or 2 meters outside the cities. But if there's a little open bike sensors, it's quite easier. And yes, another thing for almost accidents, maybe you can open this link, almost accidents. With this app, safety and just click on the click yes, and you can zoom in and out. You can see how many accidents were there, and with OpenStreetMap, and you can see where the critical corners and so. And to combine this data, this is the open app. It's available for every city. It's not done by DEAS. It's available with this open bike sensor. You have consolidated data because it's from the open bike sensor and from this open application. So you can do something for biking, and this is a good reason that people are in touch with the city administration to say, okay, they are really interested to do something for bicycle and not just throw the cars outside the city and no parking places anymore. Can you get back to my presentation? So e-scooter, just for your information, we have always problems to get the data. We always need to have new contracts to put into the contract that we need to get the data. There are two standards: the general bike standards feed specification and the mobility data specification. These two standards are quite important for getting the real-time information, also for urban transport planning. They are not, both are not open, just one is open, the other can be open, but then the companies say it's a business secret, and then you can say, yeah, please then give me the mobility data specification because I need this. When people come to my city from Switzerland, from France, it's quite crowded. And if they go from the train, they need to know if they like to take the e-scooter or the bike. And so I need for urban transportation planning, I need the mobility data specification. And our local level, Baden-Württemberg Mobility Data does quite a lot for us. They have a best practice toolbox and to get in touch with us. Okay, thank you.
So, and further, the two first illustrations on tourism and mobility, I leave the floor to Robert Stubenrauch from DEAS Austria.
Yes, we are already late, so I'll try to be extremely brief. I hope you can hear me through the mask. Brief but brilliant. Brilliant. Let's see. Yes, I'm representing the Transnational Working Group on Environment, and we had 3 partners, 3 regions involved in this Transnational Working Group, which was Styria and Ljubljana and Grand Lyon. And I think I can take over control here. And as I said, Upper Austria was the coordinator. So the group met a few times and we had discussions, and the group agreed that they wanted to have water levels and flood alerting as a common topic, because it affects all regions, of course.
And also it's a transnational topic, naturally, because water is flowing from one region to the other. The approach was the following. We wanted to bundle available data and add value by creating simple new APIs to access those data in a better way. Data in that way could be made available to experts, researchers, but also to SMEs and so on to develop new services. It happened that in Upper Austria we have a small company who is creating or already running a service called Page Alarm. They are collecting water level data from many European and even non-European regions. The CEO agreed to make the data available for the purpose of DEAS. The project was to store water level data available. So it was a snapshot sort of data from the Page Alarm system was made available, was uploaded to the DEAS platform, and new APIs were developed to make the data more easily available. So to access them, to search for state, region, and name of the water. And the data are available now at the platform. You see the link here, and that's it. Yeah.
Well, definitively brilliant. It's very clear that it's a major topic for many regions in the Alpine space, and I think that the climate change that we are all facing will reinforce the fact that such a kind of application is really important at Alpine space level. I think that you mentioned Lyon, but in France, Strasbourg, and many cities in the Grand Est, we are facing the same problems. That's clearly. So thank you for this presentation. Very short, but it's perfect. Just before to enter in the last sequence with the showcases on tourist mobility environments, I would like to let the floor to Christian Cucinello from DGRTD. We will speak of another topic, not introduced by other colleagues from the European Commissions, and the title is the use of the open data in the context of open science practices.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Christian, and let me thank you for inviting me here. And I appreciate it a lot what has been presented and the DEAS project. And I apologize, I entered the room a bit late, and I would like to leave at a certain moment. I have a meeting at 1, unfortunately. But let's say that open data, as you heard from the speakers before me from the Commission, is a key topic for us, and with the wealth of data available are not only for the well-being of our citizens, but also for they have the potential to create some economic advantage and growth. So, but here we are talking about science. So data are not just from citizens, from companies. Data come from science, and most importantly, in this we witnessed a change in how we do science, how researchers do science, towards a way that is called open science, that is based on sharing knowledge and tools as early as possible between researchers and disciplines, and sharing also with society at large. What does it mean? It means that making results available can, of course, accelerate the scientific process and inspire new research, and can be of use for the society. But there are many elements in the concept of open science. A principal one is, as you can see, as you can read in this graph, open access. Okay, open access to publication firstly, open access to data. It's also of extreme importance. But there are other aspects that I mean we embed in the concept of open science. So to do open science that is digitally enhanced, skills and training are an element that we need to curate to really transform the way of doing science and making open science the new norm. It's international cooperation is because we break the barriers and the geographical limitations, and we based everything on let's say ICT enhanced type of research. You heard many times the word of digital twins, where you can experiment, when you can let's say fasten the way and reducing the time of doing research while you simulate an environment. But also research needs to be trusted, and to be trusted, it needs to be reproducible. And all those things are have to be done in a framework that's it's fairly older than what we think. So researchers are enslaved by a system that considers elements like impact factor journals and elements like this in their career, while sharing in open access is not, let's say, one of the elements that reward the researchers. It's why we are promoting the introduction of rewards and incentives to researchers, and we are currently trying to reform the research assessment in Europe. I don't bother you with that because I think it's not the subject that you're interested in listening to, but it's just to say that it's a systemic change. Most, as I said, open science, why we need it? Because we need quality in the sense that when you open something outside, is also open to criticism, to analysis, and for sure, going towards open science, it can create a more qualitative and efficient system. It can inspire creativity, giving more information to the other researchers, and also it's transparent towards society. Society needs to trust science, and we often hear the word, let's say, science-based policy making. Okay, I mean, but it is, let's say, a valid element if a society believes in and trusts science. And the opening up, it's a key element for this. So there are challenges, as I said. So firstly, we have to make accessible the scholarly publications, and publications, it's the beginning, but we have also to make accessible data. And all other research outputs, but in which way? It's just putting there in a website. No, I mean, we in science, you find a term that it's now, let's say, is going to be adopted very soon by many others, that is fair, findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. So this is the ensemble of practices that within open science, the Commission is promoting towards all the European researchers, and we are trying to do it also beyond the research. What it means being fair? It means being assigned with an identifier, persistent identifier, being accessible, being interoperable, so enriched with metadata and in line with data formats and data structures that allow combination of different data sets, and reusable. The RDM process, the research data management process, implies that data is not only produced, but is also curated. and we don't dump data somewhere and we don't look at it, but we need to ensure, let's say, the fair a long time. And of course, we need to do so, we need enablers. The enablers, as I said before, need to be rewards and incentives, appropriate skills, but also in, infrastructures, also means that aid the capacity, the capabilities of researchers to share data and other research outputs. And the Open Research, the European Open Science Cloud is the initiative that the Commission started pushing in back in 2016 with an operative jump in 2018. Where all member states agreed that this endeavor has to be done and is now in its development. So we already have evidence that open science is worth. Within COVID-19, the European Commission together with EMBO, EBI, and other key players created the COVID-19 data platform, and that increased the analysis of data and brought a high level of cooperation. Still is not perfect, but it shows that this is the right direction. So what we just said is embedded in the European Research Area communication. I just usually I already introduced to you the basics of our policy of open science and the European Open Science Cloud. Now should be the time of talking about the reform of research assessment, but no, here I want just to stress the fact that even in the European Research Area communication, the link with the citizens is important and is mentioned under the citizen engagement. Citizens can participate to research, providing information, contributing, but also researchers to be liked and used by citizens and as to have, let's say, societal value. And I think that as an interregional project, you have perfectly clear this aspect, and what you do is for your territory. And I wanted just to stress that science can be also a well of the lens. I wanted to close briefly what I said before, that one element where we need to start is open access to publication. The European Commission doesn't want us to, let's say, state principles, but in this case, we try to operate one. So we created the Open Research Europe platform that is available only for the time being, only for Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe beneficiaries, but it is an open access publishing platform where researchers publish, have reviewed their publication, link their data, and through the platform the publication is available to everyone with no fee, nothing. So you can go, and it's fairly new. We hope it will grow very fast, but this is an example of an open access publishing platform that I think is also relevant to know. But let's go a bit further, and because here we are talking about open data. Open data, yes, I mean, you heard that there are directives and we ask member states to implement that, but also as Commission within our research framework program, we try to do the same, because there are conditions for open science
in Horizon Europe. And let's look at that. We started in 2008 asking for open access to scientific publication. Then we escalate with mandatory open access to publication and a pilot on open data in 2014. Everything has been made mandatory in 2017. And now in Horizon Europe, we have a full scheme of provisions that allow this concept of being funded by public money as generating open data. Of course, there are exceptions. I mean, we have to consider that. So yes, publications, as I said, licensing CC BY, of course, and one thing, metadata in CC0. Here we are talking about sharing information. What the information is, it doesn't matter. It has to be enriched with metadata, and metadata are the elements that are harvested to create catalogs and to provide the first hint for the users on what the information is about. So it has to be in CC0, so to enrich the catalogs that we have. And I think it's common in all kinds of open data to have at least a CC0 license for metadata. For what concerns data, again, I mean, open, yes, but fair and deposited in trusted repositories to ensure availability. So what you said before, it happens. What is open data is data that I can use freely, but if it's not there anymore tomorrow, it hinders the use of it. Depositing in trusted repositories is one of the way we try to avoid this. There are contractual obligations, by the way. So if information is generated by research activities funded by the Commission, you will find in a medium term this information available, but also with the condition of depositing in trusted repositories, we ensure at least 10 years availability of data. And also the other outputs. I mean, data, it's numbers, yes, but data, as we come today, a plethora of digital information that could be even images, pieces of software, codes that for which we ask the same treatment as we ask for data. And here, okay, I mean, the practices, I already mentioned them. And one important thing that in every process of the way, we need to include all the actors to make to create the need of opening up the information. But what I think is interesting for you is the European Open Science Cloud. We talked about before the data spaces. The European Open Science Cloud is in development, but is meant to be a trusted and federated multi-provider environment where to find data and services for science. The vision is to build a web of fair data, and it has some objectives that are related to open science, but let me go a bit further, are not only linked to the European Research Area. The EOSC was part of the cloud strategy. EOSC is part of the European data strategy. And if you read the data strategy, you never see where EOSC is because it's transversal and is defined as a cross-cutting data space for research and innovation. So because EOSC is a part of the strategy, we need to highlight that it is, I mean, data under EOSC are meant to be free at the point of use, so available for everyone. What is EOSC mainly? Is a federated environment where researchers are at the core. Researchers produce data, create services through what we call infrastructures and research infrastructures. And those are federated within the EOSC core. Around the core is empty, but around the core data is federated and also are enriched through an ensemble of services that they are meant to grow in time, and all EOSC is providing back to the researchers, to the research performing organizations, and beyond the services that is meant to federate. So, as I said before, EOSC is in development. So now we have bits and pieces of EOSC, and there will be a procurement launched that will be launched soon. That into 2023 will create, if you look at the bottom left of the slide, the federating core and the basic services of EOSC. For the time being, you have several resources. Here, I put just a few examples because, as I said before, I think scientific information, scientific data can be of interest for some of you. Here, there are 5 examples plus 1 of research infrastructures that's coalesced and try to create their own science cloud. There is PANOSC, that is the photon and neutron community. It has applications in industry. Okay, it's very interesting for industry. But there is ENVRIFAIR with environmental research, where through that you can access information on lands, on water, even on green gases, and there are stations that are spread all over Europe. There is SHOP, Social Sciences and Humanities, so that it embeds also cultural heritage, EOSC Life, Escape, and those will be soon. All the data contained in these separated clouds will be searchable and accessible through the EOSC portal. It's not yet there, but the EOSC portal will be an important piece of the procurement. As it is happening in the EOSC environment, also in the European Common Data Spaces, there will be the procurement for a smart middleware for the data spaces, and those 2 elements is just to say that the 2 procurements are managed will be managed by DG Connect, and the different actors within the Directorate General talk to each other, and there will be alignment. So for also the full integration of EOSC within the systems of the data spaces. So I'm sorry that we cannot give you EOSC now to try it out and to have access to scientific data to see if those are of relevance, but it will be soon. And there is another that's considering that also mobility is part of the data you are interested in, and you're trying to build a service on top. There is a Be Open, that is the Transport Research Open Science Cloud, and you might give a look at that. So with this, I think that I overstepped a bit, but I conclude, and if you have any questions, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this presentation, because that's we discussed during the first part of the events about how to use the open data sources. But I think that's to have your visions about how to use also the data coming from the research. Give us a global overview. Okay, that we have data from research, we have data from development and innovations, and if we could combine all these data sources, I think that we create more added value 4 territories. It's very, very interesting. Then,
Carlo Vigna raised his hand.
okay, Carlo Vigna. Carlo.
So thank you for giving the floor. I know that time is running. Just a quick reaction, if I may, on the intervention of Mr. Cucinello, and also on the presentation of the first speaker on DEAS project, because as AG5 co-leader, and I thank you, Roberto Sandridi, for mentioning Smart Alps, that is the network of smart village from the Alpine region, because I am firmly convinced that permanent network are one of the initiatives that macro-regional strategy can put in place to scale this kind of intervention and project as it is theirs, to mainstream then to have impact on the micro-regional areas, also to contribute to the European overall strategies, to be linked with the initiatives that the different DG are bringing forward. So, of course, the cross-fertilization with the Smart Alps project is one very interesting point that we are exploring, because the application cases at the municipality level can give a huge potential, also to adopt common standard and helping little reality to go to the overall approaches is very interesting. But also what I would suggest is to take the opportunity to explore a specific permanent network as a strategic initiatives for open data, involving also the other action group, and of course I can give support about this because already is present action group 2, but also action group 4 on the mobility, action group 6 and action group 9, and just to close to the open science, of course, action group 1 of USALP is about research innovation, so all the open science and research innovation is another one that could be, I think, be part of this promotion of the open data approach if we want to scale it at the USALP level. And so with the both flow toward the municipalities to reach impact to support them, but also toward the European Commission to structure this kind of connection for the European stakeholder. So it was just my suggestion. Okay.
Thank you for your suggestion. Thank you. Okay, nice. That's I suggest that we come back to the project, and we of course look at the presentation. So that now I let the floor to my colleagues from the DEAS consortium. That's we have a presentation about the showcases on tourism, mobility, environment, and for tourism, I let the floor to Robert.
Yes, I'll take the opportunity again to save some time.
No, 1 minute.
My presentation.
No, we don't stop. That's no, with 2 minutes. That's we have the time.
I have to leave for the airport now.
Okay, fine.
I'm using the time to say farewell to all of you, because I have to leave right after my presentation. It was a pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to do this project. Well, and now my presentation. While you enjoy some Austrian, specific Austrian tourism highlights, or should I say, culinary highlights, I'll rush through my things. So was about tourism pilot in Upper Austria, and as a local agency, we don't have any tourism data. We cooperated with a local tourism agency, and they are running quite a sophisticated online database called Tour Data, and so we decided to do a hackathon based on the data from the tour data system, and invite creative and startup communities to create some new services. And actually, I don't want to
show you all the slides. We did four days online hackathon. We had 10 individual participants grouped in 4 teams, and they came up with quite great solutions, I think. We had also money prizes, 3,000 and 1,500 and 500. So I don't know where I should look at. Hi, everybody here also. Anyway, the result. The 3 winners you see here. And the winning solution, the screenshot of it is here. It's called Getahi. It's actually an animated visualization of hiking tours. So you can select it and it moves around as you sort of walk through the hiking trail. And that's it, and some explanation by the jury. And we also had some criteria. That spider here represents the 10 criteria. And yeah, what turned out as the main result, it was what's the biggest need in tourism data is accurate and up-to-date occupancy rate on a daily basis that's not available. That actually would be a very important thing for all these kind of projects. And nicely, the tourist agency now is discussing to make their data truly open, because they haven't been truly open so far. And they are talking about making it open on a CC BY level. Of course, person-related data would not be able to, would not be fit for this. So I think that's it again. Yes, thank you. And
So thank you. It's
Me again.
yeah, you again. Yeah.
Yes, video conference had just the local mobility focus, and transnationally we all have the mobility issue. And thank you. So first of all, in our DEAS project, we had local pilots on the environment, tourism, and on mobility, because City of Constance has mobility. So we had a local hackathon and a transnational hackathon with all online because of COVID-19. And in this transnational hackathon, using open data and APIs, we did some interesting things. One thing was, for example, that we we did one challenge in this transnational pilot. It was walkability with all partners. The lead of this walkability challenge was in Graz, Austria. And the question was how, which food paths are safe if I like to go in the night at home, what is a safe route, or if it's very hot, which is the good way to get a shadow and maybe some benches where I can sit down. And so we did a little bit of open data and walkability. And then we, on our transnational pilot and mobility, we had another challenge, which is called digital traffic guidance. So if you have maybe a 3D city model, and then you need to get all the transportation mobility data, and then you can do some modeling and visualization with the data, because every one of us need to know the traffic flows before they come to town. For the second challenge of this transnational pilot, and one thing what is very important is the intermodal routing and visualization. The first aim was to have a mobility as a service pilot, but because of lack of consolidated data for mass projects,
because regional and national mass projects just have started in Germany and France and Italy. There's no one. So one point is to say to the EU that there should be more mass mobility as a service project to get transnational mobility pilot done. So this project we had a pilot transnational, but not a real mass project. But it's starting. I think France, Germany, and Switzerland do a mass project together. It's Mobi Data, Karlsruhe Verkehrsbetriebe, and then also with Basel. And they were part of our transnational pilot as well. In this pilot, they start to get some results done, what is important for a transnational pilot. And after DEAS, they will have another INTERREG project together. Yeah, we have a lot of open government dialogues. It's me with open data and INTERREG in the account, talking with the people, talking with SMEs, talking with the scientific things and so on. And starting with DEAS and the project of DEAS, we get some new knowledge about all the smart digitalization projects. And yes, now we are a smart city and we get 5 years budget for getting the topic of mobility more deeply. So with open data, open source, and national funding, we are a smart city made in Germany, starting now to 27. And yeah, if you're interested to do more mobility or environment topics or something like this, you are invited to contact me. Because we are in the middle of Europe, so we are very close to Italy. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Frédéric from Tuba Lyon. That's the floor is yours for the showcase focused on environment.
Yeah. I will be quick, as most of you already know about this pilot. So Tuba was focused on environment, especially on waste management issues. Tuba is a place dedicated to innovation, to urban innovation through data approach and user-centric approach. Anyway, giving birth to project like events, hackathon, studies, etc. So in this for this DEAS project, we organized in June 2021 a hackathon, which means a 2-day creative sprints bringing together participants from local authorities, SMEs, big companies, associations, students, to work on that waste management issue. The main goal were three challenges were proposed to the participants. The main goals were to the cooperation of the stakeholders, to open data from the public and the private stakeholders, to give birth to experimentations and to create new services. A short video rather than words. If it works, time. If it's here, the PDF. There is a link on the. Yeah, that one. No, back. No, back. Yeah, this one. So this hackathon give birth to our local pilot. At least the idea was born during this hackathon. It was called Jette-moi bien, which is which is a data visualization tool to help citizens find waste collection or donation points. Then it was a cooperation between students from EM Lyon, business school in Lyon, and Visity, which is a startup from Lyon that develops no-code maps. Yes. One of the main issues for the students was to collect data from various sources, public sources, private sources, even on the field. They had to collect data on the field, in the street or in the shops. Then the tool was developed in March, and in April it was deployed. Jette-moi bien is now online, so jettemoibien.com, and we are still testing the tool to improve it. You can have a quick view of what it looks like. Of course, it seems rather simple, but it's a useful tool for a citizen, and it's a main goal for TUBA to be useful for citizen, of course. Ergonomics is to be improved, as well as the database is to be regularly updated. It will be a main issue for many services. And we are looking for a deployment in shops or collection points to gain visibility. Also, the next step would be to Lyon Metropolis to appropriate this tool and to expand it to the whole Lyon Metropolis territory, but that's still in discussion with them. That's all on my part. Thank you very much.
We have a next presentation from Ljubljana. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Frederic, for this presentation from TUBA. And now we have another online presentations, still related to the showcase environments. That we have the pleasure to welcome you, Zeliško, from the city of Ljubljana, and let you the floor.
Hello, everybody. Hello, here is Željko from Ljubljana, still positive person very much. So I like you very much in Brussels. So I will start with and share my presentation, of course. Just confirm it if you can see, please. Okay, can I start? Perfect. Okay. This is the pilot, actually a case which we are working in the DEAS project, City of Ljubljana and Technological Park of Ljubljana, of course, in these 2.5 years. So we are talking about establishing a network of autonomous devices and sharing open data for monitoring of the level of the water level in the city of Ljubljana. So if you are going, so okay, this is our project DEAS. We are now the Venetis leading partner, and I would like to thank you all the other partners in this project, because we are sharing with you in the last 2.5 years a lot of excellent information, good data, and so on. And so it was really a pleasure to work with all of you.
So we have just a little problem. Could you be in full screen?
Can I full screen? It's not full screen?
No, it's not full screen.
Oh, I try, okay, just. So you don't see this as a full screen? No?
No.
What to do? I can start one more time, but
Change the window.
is it now a full screen?
No.
No. Okay, I will start, I'm sorry, I will start with PDF or what? Sorry.
I don't know.
Not this.
No, it's no problem. It's, if you have some trouble to do it,
No, it's not, but
we can see the slides.
okay, it is now, can see full screen?
No.
No, okay, just a moment. I don't know what is wrong. Is it a full screen now?
No.
No. Oof.
And you choose a Windows when you share your screen, or you choose?
Okay, one more time. Sorry. Start sharing and
Yes. Okay. It's okay.
better now?
Amen. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, after 2 minutes, it's a better. Okay, so I will just go to the. Okay, this is general objectives and proposals of the DEAS project. So what we want to do is we want to digitize public services. We want to identify open data. We want to install capture devices, sensors, and we do, of course, do publishing on open data. We do also, and develop a data economy strategy together with all the other partners. Okay, and we will go to the real case of the city of Ljubljana and of course the Slovenian case. This is the flood from the September 2010 big flood, which was actually across the old Slovenia, about 60% of Slovenia, or about 50% of the Slovenian territory was under a big flood, and this is the picture of the southern part of the city of Ljubljana. It was about 30 million euro of the damage. So what we do? So we decide to put so we write into the DEAS project that we want to install sensor to have a big picture, and we decide to have two types of sensor: ultrasonic and radar types. So one of these is very sensitive, and another, of course, a little bit expensive. And on the left side is not so, but it's also good for our decision. Okay, for every of the 16 or 17 location, we made special measuring, and this is one of them. It's the river of the Ljubljanica in the location pot pitch. So we make for every location 3 different measuring. So the green, yellow, and the yellow. What this mean? This we will see in our video spot, and on the right side we can go to the data through the mobile devices or even for our computer. Okay, this is 16 location. So on the one is the Ljubljanica, it's the biggest river who is going through the center of the Ljubljana. And as you can see, this is actually small, not even the river, but very dangerous for city of Ljubljana because of the flood. It's maybe when there is a danger, it has up to 100 times than in this case. Okay, we have also in November hackathon 4 different solutions. It's very interesting to see flood call, Pozivko, flood alert, and Safe Ljubljana. It was very interesting to see how the younger generation see this problem. They use the open data from our sensors. And what is important maybe in this moment that we will implement flood alert actually for the city of Ljubljana. So the case from which was beginning in the hackathon for the fluid environment, actually we will implement in the city of Ljubljana. And everything, this is really, really short presentation because Laura will now start the video. It's about 4 minutes, what actually we do in the last 2.5 years in city of Ljubljana. Laura, please, I will stop the share the screen.
Okay, thank you. Only a moment here. Okay.
Širše območje mestne občine Ljubljana je glede na škodni potencial, ogroženost ljudi, pomembno infrastrukturo, kulturno dediščino, gospodarstvo in druge kriterije umeščeno na prvo mesto po poplavni ogroženosti v Sloveniji. Obsežne poplave v Sloveniji leta 2010 so zajele tudi Ljubljansko kotlino, kjer je bila poplavna škoda ocenjena na več kot 30 milijonov evrov. To od države in od lokalne skupnosti zahteva uveljavitev ukrepov za povečanje poplavne varnosti. O preteklih poplavnih in drugih visokovodnih dogodkih smo ugotavljali, da državna mreža vodomernih postaj Agencije Republike Slovenije za okolje ni omogočala takega uvida v hidrološko-hidravlične razmere na vodotokih, kot je to potrebno za zaščito, reševanje in pomoč. O prijavi za projekt DEAS smo zato zapisali, da bomo v sodelovanju s stroko in s tehnološkimi partnerji načrtovali ter vzpostavili mrežo senzorjev za meritve vodostaja. Tako pridobljene informacije pa nato objavljali na platformah odprtih podatkov. Na območju mestne občine Ljubljana smo identificirali 33 kritičnih lokacij, kamor je bilo smiselno postaviti merilna mesta. Dejansko smo vzpostavili sistem 17 merilnih mest na 16 različnih lokacijah vodotokov in zadrževalnikov. Na južnem delu mesta, na Ljubljanici, Iški, Ižici, Farjevcu in na Volarju. Na severnem delu mesta na Gameljščici, na vzhodnem delu mesta na Dobrunščici in Besnici, ter na novo zgrajenih zadrževalnikih Mihov Štradon in Brdo pri Tehnološkem parku Ljubljana. Postavitve dodatnih senzorjev za merjanje vodostaja omogočajo dopolnitev podatkov Agencije Republike Slovenije za okolje in s tem še bolj celovit sistem opazovanja hidroloških parametrov na območju mestne občine Ljubljana. Nadzor vodnega režima ob nizkih in srednjih pretokih na zapornicah, jezovih in zadrževalnikih. Možnost pravočasnega ukrepanja ob pojavu poplavne nevarnosti. Ter možnost bolj zanesljivega obveščanja prebivalcev na poplavno ogroženih območjih. Sistem je sestavljen iz 2 vrst merilnikov, od katerih eden uporablja radarsko, drugi pa ultrazvočno metodo odboja signala od gladine vode. V ozadju se glede na podane parametre preračuna višina vodostaja na posamezni lokaciji, ki se jo nato avtomatsko umesti v zeleno, rumeno, oranžno ali rdeče območje ogroženosti. V primeru nenadnega dviga vode dobimo najkasneje v 10 minutah informacijo o tem, kaj se dogaja na posamezni merilni točki. Podatki, ki se pridobivajo po 2 poteh, se naknadno združijo v zalednem sistemu, ki ga je razvila Fakulteta za računalništvo in informatiko Univerze v Ljubljani. Dostopni pa so tudi preko API oziroma preko grafičnega vmesnika. V sklopu zaključnih aktivnosti v projektu DEAS smo 27. maja 2022 v sodelovanju s Tehnološkim parkom Ljubljana organizirali srečanje DEAS Strategy Field Trip na reki Ljubljanici. Ob zanimivih predstavitvah na ladjici smo si v živo pogledali 3 na novo nameščene senzorje vodostajev na reki Ljubljanici in hkrati brainstormali strategijo podatkovne ekonomije. Mesto Ljubljana se nahaja na območju hudourniških rečnih poplav, zato poplave zmeraj bodo. Na nas pa je, da poskušamo z različnimi aktivnostmi in ena takih je tudi projekt DEAS. Predlog dodatnih samostojnih avtomatskih postaj za merjenje vodostaja vodotokov je podan z namenom, da se z dopolnitvijo merskih mest Agencije Republike Slovenije za okolje in merskih mest na že zgrajenih objektih in objektih, ki so tik pred izvedbo, vzpostavi celovit sistem opazovanja hidroloških parametrov na območju Mestne občine Ljubljana.
Okay, that's from my side. Thank you.
The little film, it's really very interesting. That's just before to let the floor to Ivano. I just would like to add one comment. It's really I think that the different presentations show that we did not produce only papers, but real things. And I think that the different hackathons organized by the partners have demonstrated that we can involve the quadruple helix in the development of ideas to products. And I think that's really, it's one of, from my point of view, one of the main output of this project. So thanks for these presentations. And now I have the floor to Ivano. Ivano, yesterday you were a little bit, how to say that, they have enough time to introduce my part. That's, we have time. We are full in time. And I lay to the floor, Ivano. You are coming from CSI, Piemonte, Torino, the Consortium of Information System. And now you will be the last speaker, and you will speak about the DEAS process from datasets to API.
So thank you so much. I guess you want a very long presentation.
2 hours.
2 hours. So I will kill you definitely
No, but,
at the end of the morning.
No, sorry, but Fidel Castro is not coming here. He's not participating today.
Okay, so this presentation, well, let me introduce myself a bit more. I'm Ivano Gauna. I'm from the Research Development Department in CSI, which is correctly, as you said, Consortium for Information System. We are a consortium of public bodies, and we are basically an ICT company. We produce services for different administrations. Some of them are quite big, some of them are quite small. We operate not only in the Piedmont region where we are based, but in many other regions. We have recently included in our consortium the metropolitan area and the city of Milan, the metropolitan area of Rome, and a number of other cities in Italy. We were the technological partner of the DEAS project, and we supported the project mainly in handling data and establishing the management from the sources to services of all the data we collected within the project. Let's start with a brief scenario of the initial situation of the project. We started with, of course, many partners, many different regions. Each of them had different needs. We had a lot of data sets available. Some of them were open data already published to portals, and some of them were not open data. We were also dealing with different thematic areas, tourism and culture, mobility, environment, that are not autonomous, but are connected because, for example, tourism is connected with mobility and even with the environment. We are thinking about sustainability
and other related issues. And we had also different level of digital maturity, meaning that in some areas, some kind of services were already available. So we had to deal with, let's say, a complex situation. So what we did initially was to establish a process looking at the data flow we could have within the whole project life, starting with the analysis of the user needs and the expectation, continuing with looking at the availability of data to support maybe new services. And at other step, defining service concept through a use case design and identification. Then identify what would be done within the pilot action. Sequently, to develop the API, which is one of the core activities of the project. And finally, to have the final pilot development that could mean new services, but also maybe providing data to existing services, as really happened in some cases that we have already seen. Looking at the initial situation when we have open data level 1, what does it mean? What is the workflow that is needed to develop a service? Of course, we have to start from the user need. So with the idea of a new service, for example, then we have to check the existing data sources or search data sources to support the service. Once we have the data available, we have to identify the specific project to use the data, meaning the development part of the activity. And finally, yes, to come to the final application. In this case, what happened? We have to deal with a lot of different systems, protocols, formats of the data, and different semantics. So here the risk of end up with a bubble tower is quite high. And from the point of view of the costs, already, of course, the costs are increasing. The time to spend is also a lot. And to develop the project, we have to deal with many interactions. So coming through different stages of the application development. If we look at a situation of level 2 open data, what happened? Here we start from the user needs. We, in this case, we have we identify a single source of the data, and from this stage we go through the final development, application development. In this case, we have not a mess of the different system formats and so on, but it's a bit tidy up to the situation. In this case, the process of development, the services is don't need interaction, and the costs and time to spend is decreasing. There is a further stage. We went through the project and represent let's say, the core value of the DEAS methodology, which is the publication through API. Since when we have level 2 open data,
we have different approach to handle the data. We can publish them through a web portal in different formats, such as CSV, TXT, for download and whatever. And in this case, we produce human readable data. That means that to use the data for your service, a human intervention is needed. So you have to download, you have to move the data from maybe a portal to an application and so on. In the case of accessing data through API, we have the data in machine readable format. And of course, in this case, the application development is quite easier. And in this, the approach we adopted in the DEAS project. Based on this methodology and on this data workflow, here we have an example. We have already seen something about this. This is the example on tourism and culture data. Well, the starting situation is that we had a lot of different information data on tourism and culture. We have different types of entities to be stored, from villas to garden, hotel, bed and breakfast, and whatever, changing from one region to another region and so on. So starting from this equation, we identified, let's say, a common view in the data based on the point of interest. So establishing a unique approach to the data, we identified the point of interest, like the entity to collect from different situations and different sources. And we came up to this data model that include 6 different tables of the point of interest. I don't come into the detail here, but you can see which kind of information is included here. And what was the result? We collected totally a good number of points of interest from different regions, and we put them into the DEAS platform, and we made them accessible with through APIs. And this is the result. When we have in the DEAS platform all the information, we can map them. Here is the example on the Piedmont region, but the same thing can be done, of course, on the other regions. And this is an extraction of different categories of data, of information. This is a further example. On the left side, you see the information about mountain hats, which is placed in the mountain area. And on the right side, you see the location of the hotels. We are here in the lake area of Piedmont. And okay, this is almost the end of the workflow. What is interesting here is that the API that we developed during the process of managing the DEAS data, we provide the data collected to existing services. This is an application that was already in place, already used, developed by a startup of Milan. We came in contact with them during the hackathon that we held at the end of 2021. And we provide them the data made available during the DEAS project. So the data that we collected now are used by them
They are promoting the data about culture and especially data about places not so well known. So they are promoting the territory in some way. They want to help people to discover new resources, new places, and new interesting things related to culture. And it's one of the results we had at the end of the process. And that's all from my point.
Thank you. That's all, but many words. But many words. Thank you, Ivano. That's now we have only less than 10 minutes late. We have 1 minute. 1 minute. Exactly 1 minute to close. Roberto, you want to close or? Oh. I can start. So that's. I would like first to thank you all for your participation to the workshops. Participants here in Brussels or participants online. I think that we have very fruitful exchanges between us. That's nice, but also with the European Commission. And I would like especially to thank all the organizers, all the people who find so very, very interesting speakers from the European Commission, from DG RTD, from DG GROW, and from DG Connect. And personally, that's a special thanks to Matteo and Laura for the organization. Thank you very much. Good job. And Roberto.
And thank you from Veneto region side as well. I'm talking together on behalf of Manola. But first of all, thank you very much, Jean-Jacques, for the coordination of this meeting. It was quite nice to see as you follow strictly the agenda and you allow to keep the time. So
it's a pleasure to work with you, Roberto. I learned a lot with you, Roberto, for many years.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to Grand Est region for hosting the meeting. It is a pleasure. I think that the meeting is promising for future steps. So this is what I can understand, even some talks that we had during the coffee break. So thank you very much. This is the last way we meet in the frame of DEAS. Honestly speaking, we met a lot of time digitally, but physically, just the kickoff, the final event in this meeting. So it is a project that has been developed under the COVID-19 umbrella. We understood the added value of the digital technologies, but even we understand that it's important to meet and stay together, because this is the core of the INTERREG program, to exchange knowledge and to go ahead with the relationship. So thank you very much to everybody. It was a pleasure to work with all of you. I know that the road was quite long, with many stops, with many discussion, but this is quite normal when we have a challenging project like DEAS was. So thank you very much again. And of course, we don't have finished yet. You know that we have the last step, the last mile, I could say, that is not only to complete the project, but even to get the final approval by the JS that is waiting for our reports, our deliverables. But I don't want to be too boring you now. I will be back. Okay. So thank you very much. Paolo is connected with us. Paolo is our financial manager. He was not able to join us, but he was following, and he will be back together with me for the reporting, as already he did, because you should have received an email concerning the reporting, just to remind you some very nice and scientific things to be implemented. So thank you very much again. And Jean-Jacques, I think that we can close.
We can close.
And thank you very much for all the online participants, and for the patience to follow us, because it was a long roadmap.
We can applaud them.
Thank you very much.
And